This is a short video that will outline the history of FILE, Electronic Language International Festival, and its current challenges. From where did it emerge? FILE was born in 1999 on the Internet and soon has organized its first exhibition at the Museum of Image and Sound in São Paulo, Brazil in the year 2000. The name FILE is a reference to the tag on the top left item in the menu of almost all Windows programs and other operating systems, which in Portuguese is simply translated as arquivo. In the beginning, We filled the file with the aesthetic productions made for the internet. File was developed along two principal axes over its 20 years. One of them is online, with websites, databases, social medias, and etc. The other is offline. Exhibitions, publications, symposium, workshops, and performances. The Internet is built on a complex living dynamic which needs to be refreshed and updated frequently. One of FILE's core commitments is to provide the public with free access to all the information it has on the artworks and artists' information who participate in each event. To date, FILE has organized 49 exhibitions in 7 different cities since the year 2000. The festival was an active participant in the early days of the broadband internet arrival in Brazil. As a result, Brazil gained an internationally visible cultural platform which showed and continues to show works of art from the digital world as part of the continuum and ever-emerging interweaving of technology and art. What has changed since then? Since a few years ago, the increasing sophistication of algorithms has gradually led to the emergence of a new artificial intelligence. To be present in the online world today requires the use of complex algorithms and significant financial resources. The online relationship with the public has become dependent on this. Programmers who, in the past, specialized in just one language now have to work in various. If, during the first years of the century, the Internet and the computer were new to many in Brazil, those who were born at that time now live in a society in which technologies such as the mobile internet are totally integrated. While, of course, FILE's public now is not the same as when the festival was born. One of the biggest achievements of the festival has been the audience it has won. More than 1 million people in Brazil have visited File's event. One of the challenges faced by the festival now is to sustain a dialogue with this new generation, while, at the same time, maintaining its position as a point of contact between the new and the historic. This is a central point in our mission, to connect art, technology, and innovation with their own history of interaction, looking forward while preserving what remains behind. What are we planning to do with this 20 years record of File? Our archive already includes all the documents and data, which tells the stories of events that have been organized over the years. There are bilingual texts, translated talks, videos of performance, images and video of artworks. The content is in various formats, totally printing, publications, databases, documentaries, DVDs, artist statements, artists' writer tags, biographies, along with hundreds of formal and informal records stored in our offices. It is a core mission and desire to make this content available to the public in an accessible environment. One of File's next goal and challenge is to make publicly available the documents and materials we have accumulated over 20 years in a single, reliable archive to be shared with others, which should be a dynamic environment as the content that it aims to sustain and preserve. We already have a name for it. It's called File Alive. We would like to discuss here, together with the International Society of Electronic Art Community, possibilities of how to preserve the traces left by our 20 years of work and leave this as a legacy, while in the same way reformulating what is traditional in art, in the sense that we deepen and strengthen the relationship between art and technology.
Hello, my name is Ricardo Farra. I'm going to talk about transforming paradigms, especially focusing on art and environment. We have been seeing uh, different situations around how we need to adapt to the conditions of the environment. Sometimes we need to mitigate those conditions. And if we follow on that same path, we are talking then about resilience. But the next step could be, if we cannot solve things with time enough, that the triage could happen, like it was happening sometimes recently at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. I took these images from a document from the Museo de Amanhã, from the Museum of Tomorrow from Rio de Janeiro, are really shocking, but things that we all know really, like how the environment is suffering for the situation and how is the world where we are living. So all this situation that we see here, all these things that could sometimes look like far from us, we see that, for example, now with the pandemic, are not that far. And I thought at some point years ago, I mean, how can we help? What can we do? What kind of things can we make that could eventually produce some difference? I started a conference series in 2010 called Balance and Balance. The original name was in Spanish because the first edition was in Buenos Aires. It was called Equilibrio Desequilibrio, but in English the translation is Balance and Balance. That was happening, as I said, in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and the idea was to start working in a link between art as a catalyzer between nature, science, technology, and society. 2011, we did the second edition of Balance and Balance in Montreal, here, and we were putting together people coming from different departments from Concordia University: music, management, design and digital arts, political science, communication, geography, planning and environment. And in different situations, like in these exhibitions we did in Argentina, for example, the idea was to link art with environment in different situations, for awareness first, but then for also for reflection and to bring action. In 2013, Balance and Balance was done in Australia, and we got support from the UNESCO, from the Red Cross Climate Center, from the Leonardo Journal. So it was a really amazing experience in one way, and very impressive, the people that we were gathering and the ideas that were discussed. Because the point is, if art could make a difference, I mean, not only we are trying to put in a little hole through this funnel the economy, the environment, the energy, I mean, can art make a difference in this? So Balance and Balance came again in 2015 in Arizona State University in the US, when the focus was on water, climate and place, because Arizona is going through a very difficult situation in terms of water. And then out of was, as I said, 2015, and during those years we also started a project with the Red Cross Climate Center. So those projects were linked to the original idea of Balance and Balance. What we were trying to do is to collaborate with the Red Cross Climate Center in different areas that they were asking us some cooperation, because they think that through art they can reach people and they can reach the emotions of the people and make a difference in the situation that we are living. So we created a sound art contest, a number of miniatures. Those are some of the names of the artistic jury, and how we were working together with the Red Cross Climate Center to produce results. And in that case, that was the first edition, we were focusing on mosquitoes, and then also an open theme regarding environmental issues. And all the sounds and all the music that was produced is now available in SoundCloud and is under Creative Commons license. And different institutions, different organizations were approaching the project, and then we had a second edition and a third edition of the Art Climate Sound Art Contest. Again, these are like we are focusing on different topics, like for example, sea level rise or zero poverty, zero emissions within one generation. That were the topics that the Red Cross Climate Center were asking us to focus. The third contest was focusing on timescales and thresholds. And this way we were trying to help not only to publish, not only to do things and presentation, but how we can reach real people through real projects and make a difference. Then in 2016 we were in Colombia, in Manizales, again doing a balance and balance conference where we were once more trying to link nature and society through art, science, and technology, but with this goal that find is crucial. The awareness is important, the reflection is important, but then let's call it eco-action, because if not, we won't have that much time to change direction. So some of the people that were coming were, for example, Luis Aran from Paraguay, doing amazing projects in his country, or David Rothenberg, philosopher and musician from the US, or Roger Malina, astrophysicist linked to Leonardo, of course, and Santiago Ortiz, mathematician and artist from Colombia and Argentina, or Andrew Kruszkiewicz from the Red Cross Climate Center. So very different profile, they were very different backgrounds and experiences, but with a common goal to make changes, to produce changes, positive changes that can help us to go forward as human beings and citizens. So in 2017, Balance and Balance was happening in Plymouth, and we were doing again a big conference with people coming from many different fields, not only artists but scientists, people from different fields of technology, sometimes people from companies or politicians, people expert in management or leadership, philosophers. And in 2018, the Balance and Balance was in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, and was produced by the Patching Zone and a number of institutions there. So basically, I want to conclude with this idea that sometimes through art, through images, like in this case, we can really convey a message, convey a way we can tell things in a way different from the traditional standard communication of scientific report that are very important, but sometimes maybe we can with an image, with a sound, with a music, to reach people and to make changes in the way we are doing things in this world. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello, and thank you for joining me today for this presentation. My name is Megan MacLaurin, and I'm the Programming Coordinator at Interaccess. Interaccess is based in Toronto, Canada. We're a nonprofit gallery, educational facility, production studio, and festival dedicated to emerging practices in art and technology. Interaccess's mission is to expand the cultural significance of art and technology by fostering and supporting the full cycle of art and artistic practice. Our facility includes an exhibition space as well as a production studio. The integration of our exhibition and production space is central to our identity, as it allows us to support artists in creating the types of works that we exhibit in the gallery. Every year, we present multiple exhibitions, Vector Festival, which is our annual summer festival dedicated to showcasing digital art and game art, a year-round program of workshops, and a range of lectures, panels, and other discursive events. Interaccess was incorporated in 1983 as Toronto Community Videotheques in order to provide artists with access to Teledon, an electronic information system regarded as a precursor to the internet. Even though the Teledon project ended in 1985, Interaccess remained at the forefront of transforming electronic art into a legitimate mainstream artistic discipline. Interaccess has since broadened its purview as an access center for a variety of electronic technologies and evolved into an important hub for the presentation of new media art. Embedded in this origin story is a commitment to providing artists with access to emerging technologies and resources, which remains a central priority for us today. Our mandate has grown to focus on emerging practices. We will continue to develop our programs alongside advances in technology and to emphasize critical discourse around interactive, robotic, sound, digital, and new media art. Now I'll share some recent examples of the kinds of programming that we offer. Interaccess presents 6 exhibitions each year. Last year, in 2019, we exhibited an experimental hybrid media commission by renowned Canadian artists Daniel Young and Kristen Giroux, which used cutting-edge digital fabrication techniques, including multiplanar geometric modeling, parametric design, and 3D animation. Following its presentation at Interaccess, the installation toured to the Art Gallery of Greater Victoria in British Columbia. This is an image of loner culture, which is an exhibition curated by Lindsay Nixon in 2018. This was an important group exhibition tracing an intergenerational lineage of Indigenous media artists whose work have not been traditionally recognized within normative Canadian media art histories. The show highlighted queer Indigenous art practices through projection mapping, an interactive chat room, home videos, and meme art. We also run an annual program geared towards emerging curators called IA Current. In 2019, we presented the exhibition Scaffolds I Can No Longer See, curated by Sophia Opal and Philip Leonard Ocampo, which included works by 4 emerging media artists. The works in the show revealed the coercive power hidden beneath the seamless aesthetics of consumer devices and online interfaces. The works pictured are by Guillaume Pascal, who's presenting on a panel this year as part of the symposium, so I encourage you to check that out. And our next exhibition, Life as We Know It, will explore biomimicry and how non-human knowledges can help humans to envision more sustainable ways of living. Our biggest event each year is Vector Festival. Vector Festival is an annual festival presented by Interaccess that showcases emergent critical and experimental new media art across a series of events, including exhibitions, performances, workshops, and screenings. For the first time in the festival's 8-year history, the 2020 edition of Vector Festival was presented fully online. Vector curators Katie McCack and Martin Zeilinger developed the festival to respond to the impacts of the pandemic and the globally enforced cancellation of many cultural events. Vector Festival 2020 online edition united the work of more than 60 Canadian and international artists in a virtual program exploring experiences of isolation, distanced interaction, virtual togetherness, and emerging forms of community solidarity and care. I'll show you a few highlights from this year's program. So artist Megan Cheng led the participatory performance Luna, which paired musical recordings of the cello and violin with gestural abstract visual cues. In Twitch, the audience was invited to use commands provided by the artist, and these would trigger the sounds and colors to build a totally unique collaborative audiovisual experience. Curator Miriam Arbus of Skyfine Foods programmed a screening for Vector Festival titled #WatchingTogether in Spite of a Dying Planet. Using experimental video and 3D animation, the screening transported viewers into new ecologies, provoking reconnection with nature and land-based knowledges. The screening event was premiered on YouTube Live and featured a real-time comment section discussion between the artists and curator. Vector Festival also showcased a project called COVID Fashion, a short documentary of street interviews showing how fashion designers and ordinary people across Toronto have adapted their lives and looks to the new physically distanced world. The creators behind COVID Fashion welcomed submissions of COVID-inspired outfits from our community for a live pageant, which culminated in an interactive video dance party. Through events like these, Vector Festival's online program found creative ways for artists and audiences to come together while staying apart. Now I'd like to tell you a bit more about our educational program and studio facilities. This is Interaccess's studio. It acts as both a production space for artists to make work as well as a classroom for workshops. Our studio is outfitted with tools to support artists working in sound art, analog electronics, virtual reality, bioart, and more. We offer studio memberships that grant 24/7 access to the shared studio facilities, and members receive access to specialized equipment, locker space, and discounts on workshops and events. Our educational workshops provide hands-on practical learning opportunities for artists to explore new technologies, to acquire or sharpen their technical skills, and also to test out new ideas. We offer 40 workshops per year for all skill levels. We also offer experimental workshops and master classes with visiting artists. This image is from a workshop by artist Tosca Turan that explored biosonification, which transformed sensor data captured from plants and fungi and even the participants themselves into sound. We also run workshops that integrate critical theory. For instance, in 2019, we ran Ashley Jane Lewis's workshop, Slime Mold as Capacitive Storytelling, which taught participants about slime mold and how slime mold's growth patterns can be seen to mirror everything from the functionality of the internet to diasporic migration patterns. This year has brought about the need for our organization to consider the ways that we can present our workshops online. As part of Vector Festival, we presented a number of virtual workshops, including making meme art on your phone, a queer guide to gift making, and fermenting a revolution. Our session on resistance strategies in the age of surveillance explored the many roles of masks today amidst protests and a global pandemic. Participants of this workshop learned to make augmented reality face filters and scavenge their homes and their gardens to create disguises that protect against facial recognition technologies. All of our fall workshop programming at Interaccess will also be presented online, so I encourage you to check that out. Interaccess has a long history of partnership and collaboration, which allows us to reach new audiences and pool new resources and share expertise. We're interested in developing new partnerships to co-present educational activities, to trial new technologies among our community of artists, to tour exhibitions, and to develop special events for Vector Festival. We're also always on the lookout for new workshop instructors with cool and creative workshop ideas, and we also accept submissions for curatorial projects year-round. So that's it. Thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure to be here on behalf of Interaccess and to tell you a little bit more about what we do. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the symposium and seeing all of the other exciting programming. Thanks so much and take care.
Hello, and thank you for watching this institutional presentation. My name is Everardo Reyes. I am glad to present with my colleague Yves Citon this institutional presentation called EUR ArTeC, Networking for Art, Science, Technology, and Humanities through Hydrology of Media. So in this presentation, we want to talk about what is ArTeC. And in the second part, we're going to talk about what is the approach Hydrology of Media as an example of the kind of projects that ArTeC supports. So ArTeC is a consortium of French institutions. It includes universities, art schools, museums, and archives. What's interesting to know is that it started from two separate initiatives, and that allowed to come closer between colleagues from different universities, mainly University of Paris 8 and University of Paris Nanterre, or Paris 10. Another thing that's interesting to know is that in ISEA 2022, which is going to be celebrated in Paris, ArTeC is going to be one of the actors involved in the organization of ISEA. Some of the partners behind ArTeC include universities, include major consortiums dedicated to research, such as Campus Condorcet, where I am right now, or the National Center for Research, for Scientific Research in France, but also museums such as the Centre Pompidou or the Centre d'Art d'Angan-les-Bains, which is a center dedicated to digital art. But let's hear Yves Citon present some of the highlights of ArTeC.
Hello, my name is Yves Citon. I'm Executive Director of ArTeC Graduate School. ArTeC stands for Arts, Technologies, Digital and Human Mediations, and Creation. ArTec's purpose is to help cross-pollinate artistic practices with scientific research. And it offers a whole curriculum of courses at the master's level, for a 2 years master's level, which will welcome foreign students, also because we will offer classes in English for those students whose French may not be good enough to take classes only in French. We already offer 1-year program at the postmaster and pre-doctoral level. And we offer doctoral fellowships as well as postdoctoral fellowships. ArTeC is the result of a partnership between prestigious French institutions like the Centre Pompidou at Beaubourg, the museum and place for modern art, like the Bibliothèque Nationale, which is the equivalent of the Library of Congress or National Library in Paris, but also schools of fine arts, schools of drama, schools of dance, etc., and 2 major universities in Paris. The first one is the University of Paris-Nanterre, which is where the political thought of May 68 brewed and continued, as well as the University of Paris 8, which was based in Vincennes and then came to Saint-Denis, where it is located now, which is where some of the tenors of French theory taught, people like Gilles Deleuze, Jean-François Lyotard, Hélène Cixous, Jacques Rancière. ArTeC, on top of the graduate school of providing classes and helping research, also has publications. There's a journal called Hybrid, which is both in French and in English, bilingual, as well as 2 book collections devoted to these topics, which most of them are published in French and English. Now, these topics and the main themes on which ArTeC works are 3. The first one is creation as a form of scientific research or research activity. The second one is new modes of writings and new modes of publications. And the third one is technologies and human mediations. Now you can find more information about ArTeC on the website, on the social networks, and also on a mailing list to which you can subscribe on this very website. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Yves. Now, the second part of the presentation, Hydrology of Media, which is an ArTeC project, which was submitted last year and is funded for 3 years, starting in 2020. So we're very glad to present to introduce the project, and we would be also very glad to inform or show the advances at every ISEA edition. So what is hydrology of media? Well, first of all, it's an approach to art, science, and humanities. We want to explore the properties and the effects of water in our own artistic, cultural, scientific, and educational practices. So, of course, it is related to some other approaches, such as archaeology of media, such as geology of media, but we believe that putting attention into the materiality and the symbolic representations of water offers a different perspective on the kind of instruments or the kind of scientific methods that have been applied or developed, and we want to intervene in those materials in order to understand the properties and effects of water. So research questions that we want to pursue are, for instance, how to represent water at scales that are invisible to the human eye, yet crucial to take into consideration, because sometimes we would need to use, for instance, ultraviolet light, infrared light, or very small scales image acquisition. Another question would be how to provoke new aesthetic experiences capable of generating a hydrologic conscience. The team behind this approach, this project, Hydrology of Media, consists mainly of scholars and artists. Some of them you already know, I'm sure. We are also associated to the shared UNESCO item, Innovation, Transmission, and Digital Edition. So among the interventions that we want to produce, participation of the general public, for instance, Planeta Agua, which is an exhibition that was curated by Andrea Sosa last year, including more than 50 artworks. We also want to explore the possibilities of photogrammetry in the sense of the techniques developed by Andres Burbano. But in this case, we would like to push a little bit further and to explore microphotogrammetry of water sources. In the same line, Anastasia Torina, for instance, have been developing different models of human-computer interaction with water, and also using microphotography. And some other interventions can be seen directly in the website. It uses the PopPop platform. So in here, you will find general information and updates about the project. And you can already see some of the interventions and exploration or experiments that we are doing right now. So to conclude, do not hesitate to explore more the website. Here is the link, and you can also, of course, contact me for further information, or if you would be interested in participating with us, we are more than open to collaborations. Thank you very much in the name of Yves Citon and myself, and hope to see you in Paris in 2022. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour, Montreal, and buenas tardes around the world. My name is Juliana Espana Keller, and I will be the moderator for today's institutional presentations. This is session number 4 as part of ISEA's 2020 International Online Program with the thematic Sentience, which is being hosted this year in Montreal. To the rest of the world. I am a post-humanities researcher and professor in the Studio Arts program at Concordia University here in the heart of downtown Montreal. And I'm delighted to be in the company today of a diverse group of leaders, directors of institutions who are hosting current research projects that are fostering interdisciplinary academic discourse, research and artistic exchange in culturally diverse organizations. These guest presenters are fostering, researching, and reimagining what the world is in its becoming, to re-examine what it means to be sentient and the ability to feel or perceive in our ongoing present historical conditions that demand a response if we continue to live in the coming post-pandemic world. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce you today to our guest speakers. Welcome, everyone. Our first guest is Paula Perissinotto from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Hello,
Yes.
Paula.
Hi,
Welcome.
Juliana.
Paula,
Thank you.
nice to meet you. Paula is specializing in new media, contemporary art, and digital culture. And since the year 2000, she has been working as a co-organizer and co-curator of FILE, Electronic Language International Festival, which was born on the internet in 1999, that promotes and encourages aesthetic and cultural productions related to the poetics of contemporary culture. She is interweaving technology, art, and digital culture, and Paula is invested in the current challenges of the File Alive, a single encrypted online digital archive, or archivo in Portuguese, which I think
Arquivo.
she will explain a little more about. Arquivo, okay, thank
Yes.
you. Our next guest is Megan MacLaurin. Hi, Megan. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you as well.
Thank you. Megan is a curator and the programming coordinator of Interaccess, a nonprofit gallery, educational facility, and production studio in Toronto, Canada. She is also the co-director, curator at Bunker 2, Contemporary Arts Container, and her research and curatorial practice explore the intersections between natural and technological ecologies in a changing climate. So, welcome, Megan, and I hope we have a great conversation today with our presenters. Our third guest is Dr. Ricardo Del Farra, who is a professor of music and media arts here in Montreal at Concordia University, and is the founder of the Electronic Arts Experimentation and Research Center at UNTREF, Argentina. I hope I pronounced that okay.
Yes,
He has been a researcher and consultant on electroacoustic music and media arts for UNESCO, director of Hexagram Canada, and the coordinator of the International Research Alliance DOCAM, documentation and conservation of the media arts heritage, amongst many other accolades. Ricardo is also the founding director of the international conference series Balance on Balance, and he seeks to create a transdisciplinary approach to bring about action or agency so that art can make a difference by transforming paradigms through artistic projects that link art and the environment to develop resilience and a proactive approach to the current complex unbalance in, excuse me, sorry, my computer's talking to me. Sorry for that. To develop resilience and a proactive approach to the current complex unbalance in climate-related events in the world. And to our next presenter, Everardo Reyes. Nice to meet you, Everardo.
Nice to meet you, Juliana.
Thank you. Everardo is an associate professor in information and communication sciences and co-director of the Masters in Digital Humanities at the Université Paris 8 Vincennes Saint-Denis, France. His research is conducted in affiliation with Laboratoire Paragraphe and the Cultural Analytics Lab, where he investigates relationships between humanities, arts, social and computer sciences, and visual forms. He has authored and edited and translated several books in digital culture. The École Universitaire de Recherche ArTeC, or which stands for Arts Technologies Numérique, was established in 2018 and is made up of a consortium of 14 French institutions, art schools, museums, and archives that cross-pollinates artistic production practices with scientific research. These interdisciplinary approaches are fundamental since their methods and methodological approaches intertwine with digital technologies and digital humanities and the ongoing nature of environmental related issues on this planet. And also you, ArTeC, will be hosting ISEA in Paris in 2022. Thank you all for your presence today in this conversation.
Yes.
So I'm going to get started, and my first question is to Paula. Paula, due to the fast evolution of technology and its fast obsolescence, the integrity of information and the readability of digital archives has become quite crucial. And this requires technical and organizational measures. So why do you think the materiality of the file digital archive is so important to us?
Well, actually, it's not the material of the archive, but its content. Yeah, what I'm trying to save, it's the history of what we have made, and not the object itself. You know, but we are already been doing digitalizing everything. We have a lot of things already all digital, you know, since 2011, everything was already received digitalized. We were already have everything online. Before we had many things online, but we were hacked 3 times. So we lost all the data, but fortunately we have the hard copies. So
Thank
now
goodness.
so now we have to digitalize that information and organize it, you know, in a proper environment. So it's more in the sense of making history than to keep physical things.
I see. Thank you. And now my next question would be to Megan. Can you talk a little bit about your programming and the extraordinary transdisciplinary approach that Interaccess has taken to address our current climate, such as how emerging technologies has affected the way you think about moving forward towards a post-human future?
Sure. Yeah, I think that kind of thread has definitely emerged more in our programs over the past few years as people have been kind of looking to ways to learn from and collaborate with, you know, different species, whether it's through sculpting with mycelium or through the analysis of lake mud in an upcoming event that we have this fall. I think expanding the way that we think of new media into looking to emerging practices more generally, and expanding beyond the purely electronic or digital and thinking of those technologies in relation to different forms of life. And that's definitely a theme that's running through into our upcoming exhibition, Life as We Know It, which is opening here in Toronto on Friday. So if anyone listening is in Toronto or is passing through, please check out our website and make an appointment. We'd love to see you and have you check out the exhibition. But basically that show is dealing with biomimicry and the ways that the kind of you know, future of or benefit of humans does rely on our ability to kind of tap into and learn from species who've been on this planet a lot longer than we have, and to kind of learn resilience techniques from those species.
That's really interesting. It was actually going to be my next question. I was actually going to talk about that because I did dip into your website and it's really, really interesting. There's so much good stuff to look at. So I highly recommend to our viewers today, well, actually for all the presenters, that you go on their websites and see what's happening, especially the project that I was particularly drawn to was the resistance strategies in the age of surveillance too. I thought that was so interesting. And the group exhibition Life as We Know, which you just mentioned. So to Ricardo, my question to you is, as mentioned, how do we adapt to the conditions of our present environment to develop resilience? And what can we do as artists to create a difference? And perhaps I'm just saying, in a way, can you elaborate on your current research and how you make these transversal connections between the ecology of the environment? I find that so interesting. And as a sound and electronic artist, I'm absolutely awed how you're linking sound to the nature, art, and society. I find that fascinating.
Thank you, Juliana. Let's put it this way. The way I started with this project, with Balance and Balance, was because, you know, switching between Canada and Argentina, where timings are different, perspectives are different, history, culture, everything was different. So at some point, I was in Buenos Aires after staying here in Canada for a long time, where climate issues and environmental issues were a concern. In other countries, you have like concerns that are so short time that you don't have the time to think about midterm future. So at some point, I was meeting people from different universities, and I remember meeting like one of the director of science and technology of a university, a big university in Argentina, and I asked, do you think that we as an artist, you know, if we as artists, we can make something? And I thought he was going to say, Ricardo, okay, go to do your little sounds, click, plug, track here and there. You can do that, but let us to do the real thing. And the answer was the opposite. He said, are the artists who are going to make the changes, not the scientists or the technology experts. And I was shocked, to be honest, with that point. It took me years to understand why he was right. But this was happening again and again with different people coming from science and technology. Basically, what I could say is that who is going to read the IPCC report and the 400 pages? I mean, you need to reach the people in a different way. And when I'm talking about the people, it means everyone. It means me, you, a prime minister, a peasant in the middle of the mountain. So how we reach the people? Just with information, with tables, with numbers, with statistics, or we reach the people in a different way? So if we want to make some change, I mean, I can elaborate for a long time. I have been working on this for quite a long time on this. And I think that, yes, we can make a difference because we can do what I was mentioning before on the presentation. It's not just the awareness, you know, to tell people information. If this is leading to a deep reflection and then this is leading to action, I think we are doing something great. I was mentioning in the video Luis Saran from Paraguay. He's an orchestra conductor. He's conducting all over the world. But what he's doing in Paraguay through music, he's organizing people. He's making the people aware of what's going on with the water. He's organizing the families around the people who are doing orchestras, local orchestras. So they learn about music, they learn about water, they learn about resources, they learn about self-organization. And this is empowering people in different ways. So the goal of doing these activities are not just, as I was saying, not publishing, or, you know, it's great to have the support of Leonardo. We have been publishing a lot of things there. That's really great. But the goal is that all these things could move people to do real changes. So I have been learning myself a lot in doing this. So I can mention one more thing just to wrap up. I mean, Balance and Balance, different from other projects, is not a project for only electronic artists, only lawyers, only engineers specialized on this or that. I mean, the people who are coming, we are the catalyzer. The electronic artists, we are the catalyzers, but astrophysicists, philosophers, people from companies, politicians, everyone is coming with one goal, that is trying to help to find solutions, local, regional, global solutions related to climate change, in general to environmental issues. So that's the goal.
Great. Thank you very much, Ricardo.
Thank you. Sorry, can I
Everardo,
mention something before to go to Everardo? It's just
sure.
as on my hat with member of the board of ISEA. If you're coming to the AGM now in a few minutes, I mean, Barcelona is going to be 2022 and Paris is going to be 2023. So it's because it was mentioned several times that it was going to be Paris 2022. So I need to just to say that it's going to be 2023 in Paris.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay. Everardo, I was wondering if you could expand a bit on the hydrology of media and the cross-pollination of artistic practices within scientific research and technology as a follow-up to Ricardo's response. I don't believe we hear you.
Yes, yes, sure. Sorry, I had muted. Yes, and before I try to answer, I have to say that yes, actually it's Paris 2023, and ArTeC is is part of the organizing committees, a very big one, and I of course I am just one dot, in the whole grid. So yes, so hydrology of media is an idea that is very related to and was inspired actually by all the fantastic efforts and the example that a society or such as Leonardo, which has been combining art, science, technology, and Ricardo explained very well and has dedicated really conferences to water. And in my point of view was the idea, the original idea was also to try to question the artifacts, try to use methods or schemes from the social humanities, from the social and the human sciences, to confront or to say looking glass to analyze the methods and the instruments and the materialities of what we use to work with water. I mean, as Ricardo and all the guests were saying, of course, we need to do something. We don't just need to promote or develop theories. That's important, but we have to try to get into the action, into the practical things. So I think that many schemes, many paradigms are well anchored in our understanding of the culture and are like taken for granted when we use some technical or scientific instruments. And I think we have to not open the black box because they are not really black boxes, but really try to understand how they work, why were they done this way, what are those measures, what do they really mean, and that from the social sciences, because in the end we want to try to explore different languages to approach our results to different people, not only as a written format, not only as an image, not only as sound, but also as an interactive or as a I don't know, as any method locally or regionally. I would start by saying this.
Thank you very much, Everardo. Paula, I'm just wondering about the situation in Brazil right now, not from only from a political perspective, but how is your organization moving forward in unprecedented times in Brazil?
Well, I don't know if you are aware, but FILE, it's an independent organization, so we are not related to any, solid institution. Every year is a surprise. And
Yes.
this year we had the exhibition was all set. We were all, closing contracts with artists. Everything was organized to happen in July. And it didn't happen. It was canceled because of COVID, and they just start to open again now. This was supposed to happen in the end of June, and they just start to open again. So, I mean, we are waiting the institutions to get organized. As in Brazil, each state has its own rules. So they are working on to put on things on, under the rules of the new circumstances. And most of the institutions that were closed, they were closed with exhibitions that were not open yet. So they already have things to go on, in their schedule. So we are very optimistic in the way that we will need to wait, and that's okay, because I think the world is asking for a pause. So we are fine with this pause, and I'm sure it would be for something better, I hope. I mean, we know we have so many different levels of problems and circumstances going on in the world, as all of you have mentioned, and especially here we have the, different layers of problems: political, health, education, economics, so we need to give a time to set up everything, at least to start to move on new projects. So we
Yeah.
are pretty much on hold.
Well, we wish you all, a lot of luck. We are all on the same platform in terms of moving forward generatively and with an affirmative ethic. I think we will overcome these challenges. I'd like to just go back to Megan, because could you maybe give us some also ideas around the environmental and digital technologies in learning, perception, and human agency from your perspective in Toronto? Maybe talk about some of the other projects, or perhaps even the educational sector, which I thought was really interesting, and perhaps to touch on the Vector Festival again.
Yeah, I do definitely think that ecological themes did emerge as part of the Vector Festival this year, particularly with reference to that one screening that I'd mentioned in the presentation, curated by Miriam Arbus, called #WatchingTogether in Spite of a Dying Planet. And really the kind of thematic explored in that particular program was, the kind of like restoration almost of, certain environments, or the kind of new balance struck between different species, whether it be humans and, other species who, without the interference of humans, all of a sudden, because industry slowed and people were staying indoors, how ecosystems could thrive in different ways than they would without the interference of COVID-19, or without the allowances that sometimes provided to certain contexts. And definitely through a number of our other programs, we're also exploring those kind of forms of agency, like interspecies agencies, in particular in one upcoming talk with Johan Diedrich and Kelly Heaton that's coming up at the end of this month, I believe on October 29th. It's an online artist talk about the artist's creation of like a deep fake bird song, which is a project that the two have been collaborating on for some time, where they're going to be chatting a bit more about the ways that the digital can imitate the natural, and how natural patterns also can inform the creation of different digital technologies. And the exhibition Life as We Know It that we have opening soon, artists participating in the show. One artist, Robert Hendeveld, has developed this like robotic rock that basically navigates around the space and kind of like uses an Arduino to like give personality and animation to natural forms that are otherwise often overlooked and seen as static, and to kind of like accelerate our understanding of geologic time. And artists Anastasia Jacek and Ananda Gabo have created these SCOBY tanks that were also pictured in the presentation, where they do data visualizations of the kombucha culture within those tanks, and kind of calls to light these unseen or unrecognized cohabitants of the space that we share, and the things that we consume. And I think that's particularly interesting to people now in terms of thinking of the like kind of boundaries between like where your breath ends, or like the possibilities of touch right now. And thinking of, the kind of microbes and bacteria that we have around us, which I think up until very recently, people hadn't been thinking so much about. So hopefully some of those themes are brought up within our programs too, particularly within Nicole Clouston's upcoming workshop on the microbial life of lake mud, where participants will be able to do their own kind of sampling and to think about, these species that they may not be entirely aware of, but that they ordinarily coexist with.
Okay, thank you. It sounds also exciting. Interspecies, multi-species, companion species. Very exciting, a gentle matter to talk about. Thank you. Everardo, I was wondering also, a question again, going back to the hydrology of media. How do we provoke new aesthetic experiences in the future? Maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about maybe one project or two projects that sort of focuses on this future and how we see it. Oh, Everardo.
Sorry. Once more.
That's
yeah,
okay.
very quickly is that we have a website based on the platform PubPub. So it's HOM, that's Hydrology of Media, om.pubpub.org. And there we have some experiments. In my case, we are like 4, 5 and more collaborators, and we are also open to different ideas and people who would like to join us and do experiments, or as we call them, interventions, or artistic provocation interventions, that could be from different angles. In my point of view, or what I do is mainly working on visual artifacts or visual representation of information, for instance, using photographic techniques to photograph water sources, but others could be like interacting or human-computer interaction techniques, or even poems. For instance, we have some collaborators working on poems or net art, or any language or any media could be, of course, molded to address these issues. So we are super open, and of course, even making hybrids of these approaches.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ricardo, just to close out my questions, where do you see your work going now? Do you have something interesting to share with us that is happening in the future?
Okay, of course, like many other people, after trying to do the next edition of Balance and Balance in 2 or 3 different countries, but because of different political, economical, and then other situations, we are trying to push the next edition online, because I think that we are in the middle of a problem with the pandemic, but the problem related to climate change is even bigger.
Yes.
So we still need to work on that. It's not that suddenly it looks like the pandemic is our only problem, and it is a serious problem, a deep problem that can change everything, but this is one of the problems we have. So I'm working a lot on that, really. So I'm focusing on that in many other projects, but really the one I'm more interested in pushing and make things work is around what we can do with Balance and Balance and other projects that are related, like the certain things we have been doing with Red Cross Climate Change, Red Cross Climate Center, and another project that is trying to set a database to communicate, a database and a communication online system between different players, key players, both from the art, science, and technology, around topics of the environmental crisis. So that's a project called ECO.
Great. Okay, so I have checked the questions meanwhile from the live feedback, and I will just check one more time just to see if we have any questions from anybody out there in ISEA land. I don't see any questions yet. So I would like to thank you all for participating in today's session. And this event would not be what it was without your presence and essential contributions today. They were all fabulous and really interesting. Please stay on and join us for the networking break for a more informal conversation. And merci, au revoir, hasta luego. Be safe, everyone. And thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you.